All right, music fans, welcome back. Harmless Dave here, talking real music in real time for a couple of real people out there just like you and just like me. All right, here is Ryan. I'm going to be talking about Deep Purple. Ryan does not really sound like Deep Purple, maybe some progressive tendencies on this. Melodic rock, up tempo. Their album is called Wings. I really dig the album cover. Very well done. Sometimes I will buy an album or go listen to an album based on what I see. If they took the time to make something artistic, I'm thinking maybe the music on the inside is good. And in this case, very good, very strong, up tempo, kind of hard rocking at times, which is cool. Again, much like Deep Purple, kind of a hard rocking band. Going to be talking about them. Before I go there, please check out modernretrofm.com. In fact, if Deep Purple releases new music, which I think they're going to come out with new stuff, modernretrofm.com. They'll be playing it, and nobody else here in the United States, for the most part, will be playing it because they just don't play older bands like Deep Purple. Now, the weird thing about Deep Purple is I thought they were about to quit. And Steve Morse leaves the band to go and take care of his ailing wife, which I thought was very commendable. But about 5 minutes later, Deep Purple had recruited guitarist Simon McBride. Now, I think Steve Morse is a great guitar player, but he pushed Deep Purple, I think, in a different direction, away from the original Ritchie Blackmore sound. Not to say that Blackmore is a simple guitarist, but he paints in bold colors, whereas Steve Morse, he's coloring all over the place and spontaneously adding all kinds of different colors the way he plays guitar. And Ritchie Blackmore is more like a sledgehammer. And I think Simon McBride fits in with Deep Purple in a way that maybe Steve Morse didn't. And Steve Morse was with that band for a very long time. And I'm thinking, Deep Purple, maybe they didn't want to record any more music with Steve Morse because they weren't getting their traditional sound, which would be an admission that they miss Ritchie Blackmore, which you can't do right now in Deep Purple. They're always answering questions about, will Ritchie come back? When are you reuniting with Ritchie? Well, Simon McBride, in an interview, says something pretty interesting here. First, he's talking about being nervous, playing Smoke on the Water, which is one of the greatest guitar riffs of all time. He says, the first time I did it, I was very nervous because that was with Ian Gillan in front of about 10,000 people. But it's such a simple riff. Now get what he says next. The main secret is just giving it the right tempo. And then Don, he's talking about Don Airey, kicks in with the Hammond playing the same thing. Roger, that's Roger Glover, kicks in with the bass, and it's just a wall of power. He went on to say some people overcomplicate the Smoke riff by playing it like a guitar player. They throw vibrato and other things into it, but then the riff loses its essence. You just have to keep it simple. And I think that's really the core of why Deep Purple is continuing, because they've got somebody now who is keeping it simple, trying to be more like Ritchie. He goes on to say, there are plenty of other places in the set for me to try new things. People always ask me, do you have freedom to improvise in Deep Purple? The answer is yes, but there are certain things you just have to play as they were recorded, like Blackmore's solo on Highway Star. McBride also added to his point by saying, it would be arrogant of him to try to outdo the original versions of some Deep Purple tracks. On the other hand, the guitarist revealed that he had a plan for playing these pieces and he was trying to keep it simple. You can't get away with playing anything else, but I don't try to copy how Blackmore or Steve Morse played. You just take the concepts they used and put your own thing to it. See, reading that, I'm thinking this is why Deep Purple decided to continue. They found a guy who's going to play it like it's supposed to be played. And again, this isn't a knock on Steve Morse because he's a great guitarist, but I think he was trying to complicate things. And I think a lot of fans, they still miss Richie. And if you can get somebody up there who plays more like Richie, you're going to attract old time Deep Purple fans because they liked that sound, whether that was the 70s Purple or the 80s or even the early 90s when Joe Lynn Turner was in the band. I mean, that is such a great band and such a great catalog. And yeah, a lot of those Steve Morse albums, they sort of went under the radar. And maybe because you weren't hearing, like a Highway Star or Knocking on Your Back Door or that kind of stuff. You were hearing almost like a jazz fusion version of Deep Purple from time to time. Not on every track, but it certainly had a different flavor to it. Those guys, they were able to write great songs for decades that nobody here in the United States really heard at all, which is obviously a tragedy. So in any event, Simon McBride keeping it simple. And maybe he's trying to communicate to the fans of Deep Purple that the band is going to sound more like they used to sound prior to the arrival of Steve Morse. And honestly, truthfully, I think that's the way to go at this stage. I mean, how much time do those guys have left? But maybe they're going to keep going for a while because they have Simon in the band. Here's Ryan, Wings. They don't sound that much like Deep Purple, okay? They do rock out a bit. It's more modern sounding. I don't know. There are comparisons I can make on this, but it's pretty original. There's, an 80s thing going on, but then there's some progressive elements as well, and they really do have their own vibe. So check it out. Wings by the band Ryan. All right. And don't forget, modernretrofm.com. And everyone, if you can keep subscribing to the channel, we're doing good with subscribers. Again, we're still getting all those folks over thanks to Eric Clapton. And I am indebted to Eric for doing the interview over here. And he might come back at some point. So you got to subscribe because you never know when Eric and I will have that fun conversation again. He is just a great conversationalist, and he talks about anything he wants to, which is a lot of fun. And thanks again to him and everybody who watched, and I will see you soon.